"You're not invited. Emma doesn't want you there." That was the cold gut punch text I got from my own family after funding their entire dream wedding. No warning, no conversation, just betrayal. So I canceled everything, wiped out 63 files, and told them, "Then pay for it yourselves, leeches." You won't believe how far they pushed me, and what I did next? "You're not invited. Emma doesn't want you there." That's the message I woke up to. No warning, no explanation, just a cold, clinical text from my own family. I sat there staring at the screen, my coffee cooling in my hand. They could have picked up the phone. They could have at least lied with more kindness. But no, that message was all I got, delivered like a knife wrapped in silence. My name is James. I'm the sibling people forget is still in the room, the quiet one, the one who says, "Sure, I'll help," while others make the noise and take the credit. For months I poured myself into Emma's wedding, not because I was trying to earn love or praise, but because I believed in showing up. I paid deposits. I built websites. I smoothed over arguments between our mom and Ethan's mother. I found the dress boutique when the original plan fell through. I coordinated vendors when no one else could be bothered to read a contract. I made their dream wedding possible. And yet, somehow, I was the problem. When I pressed Emma's maid of honor, Susan, for a real answer, all she said was, "Emma wants it to feel harmonious. Your presence would complicate that." Translation: I made people uncomfortable by asking where the money went, for questioning why $5,000.00 disappeared from catering, or why Ethan needed a groomsman's suit allowance when half the bridal party was borrowing dresses. So I responded with one sentence, "Then pay for it yourselves, leeches." And then I acted. I logged into the wedding planning account, my account. I canceled the venue, my name, my card, my reservation. It wasn't refundable. And I didn't stop there. I opened the shared Google Drive folder, Emma and Ethan wedding planning. I clicked through each photo, vendor contract, and customized RSVP template. 63 files, carefully curated and uploaded by me. And one by one, I deleted every single one. Then, with quiet satisfaction, I renamed the folder, "Good Luck Without Me." It wasn't about revenge, not really. It was about reclaiming space, my space. For years, I'd been the extra piece in the puzzle, the afterthought in every family photo, the guy holding the phone while everyone else posed. I was done with that. Let them scramble. Let them feel for once what it's like to build something and watch it vanish when you refuse to value the person who held it together. That morning, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat in stillness, not numb but clear. Because the truth is, you don't need to scream to be heard. Sometimes, silence and 63 banished files speak loud enough. They thought I'd swallow it. Again. That I'd stay silent, nod politely, and keep writing checks like I always had. But this wasn't just about a wedding. It was the final crack in a foundation they'd been chipping away at for years. That cold little text, telling me I wasn't welcome, that was just the match. They were the ones who handed me the scissors, and I just finally used them. See, if you ask them, they'd say I'm sensitive, over-dramatic, I take things too personally. But maybe you'd feel that way too if you spent your whole life being treated like a wallet with a pulse. Let me take you back 6 months before the text. It was a rainy Friday night. I remember because I was sorting bills when Emma called me, her voice shaking. Ethan had lost his job. They were 3 months behind on rent for their overpriced downtown apartment. Their landlord had given them until Monday or he would file for eviction. No hesitation. I wired $6,200, 0 cents from my savings. "Just let me know if you need more," I told her. That was the 3rd time that year. The first, Robert, our dad, overdrew his retirement account and needed $8,500, 0 cents fast to avoid penalties. I covered it. The second, Susan accidentally left Emma's bachelorette Airbnb on my card, and the girls trashed it. $1,200, 0 cents in damages. I paid that too. And every time, they made me feel like I was the burden, like my only value was in fixing their chaos. I started keeping a spreadsheet, screenshots, notes. Not to throw it back at them, but to remind myself this wasn't in my head, that I wasn't imagining this slow bleed of time, energy, and self-worth into a family that only turned to me when they needed a bailout. But it wasn't just the money. One day, I was on Robert's roof in a thunderstorm patching a leak. He looked up from the porch and laughed. Maybe James should be a house husband. Since he isn't man enough to earn a real living, they all laughed, even Emma. I mentioned it later to Susan. She brushed it off. "He's just old-fashioned," she said. "Right. This is the same man who locked me outside in high school for wearing eyeliner. Old-fashioned felt like a convenient excuse for cruelty." Still, I kept giving. When Emma got engaged, she FaceTimed me. I saw Susan and Robert grinning behind her on the couch. They helped Ethan pick the ring, helped plan the proposal. Me? I found out through a screen, like a distant cousin. I told myself it was fine, that if I kept showing up, kept helping, they'd finally see me, not just as backup, but as someone who mattered. I paid $1,000, 0 cents for their engagement photos, designed their wedding website, created custom invites. I even paid the venue deposit when Susan claimed her card wasn't going through. I built the damn wedding with my own 2 hands, while they whispered about how easygoing I was, how I didn't mind being left out. But I did mind. And that cold text, that was the moment I stopped wondering when they'd finally see me and started making sure they'd feel what it's like when I finally saw myself. It started with a ripple, a single message, then the wave hit. "Hey, Margaret wrote, I heard you're not invited to the wedding. Is that real?" I stared at the message for a while before answering. Before I could type anything, another one popped in. "Did you say something weird to Ethan's dad?" That was from Thomas, my cousin. Just wondering. I was still trying to process when I opened Instagram and saw the blow that landed hardest. A photo of Emma and Ethan standing with my parents beneath a barn draped in glowing string lights. It was the same venue I had booked, the one I paid the deposit for. And the caption beneath it? "So proud of our family. Can't wait to celebrate with all the right people." The right people. No tag, no mention, just a carefully crafted illusion of unity, without me. I scrolled to the comments, half hoping someone else had noticed. And there it was. "Is James going to be there?" one of Emma's friends asked. "He always made us laugh." Emma replied, "We're keeping it small, only people we trust." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, poring over months of emails, payment receipts, and phone records. There it was, clear as daylight now. I had done everything, paid for everything, carried everything, and still, I was disposable. A week later, as if nothing had happened, the family group chat lit up. "Hi everyone, can we all chip in for Emma's bridal shower decorations? James, since you're great with websites, can you make an RSVP page again? Love you." I didn't respond. 10 minutes later, Emma messaged me directly. "Can you just do this without being passive-aggressive?" That was it. That was the moment the thread snapped. I logged into the wedding venue portal and canceled the $4,200 0 cents deposit. Technically, it was non-refundable, but I had checked the wedding insurance box when I booked it, a $25 0 cents option no one else had noticed. I filed a claim under family dispute. The refund? 90%. Next, I opened Canva. Every design I'd created, gone. The RSVP forms, the seating charts, the menus, the welcome posters, all deleted. And I created a new file. Its title, "Ask Ethan's Dad to Deal with It." And I shared it with the whole family. Then silence. For 3 hours. Until Susan called. Panic sharp in her voice. "What are you doing, James? Do you know how this makes us look?" He answered calmly, "Yes, that's exactly why I'm doing it." Then Robert called. He skipped the pleasantries. "You've always hated Emma," he barked. "You can't stand her having a better life than you." I didn't even respond. I moved the phone away from my ear and hung up. That night, my phone lit up non-stop. Emma posted an Instagram story. "It's always the ones closest who hurt you most." Susan uploaded a photo of Emma crying, captioned, "Nothing cuts deeper than your own brother ruining your daughter's big day." Messages poured in, some from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. A few asked, "Are you okay?" Most didn't. They accused. Why would you ruin her wedding? I ignored everyone. And then, something unexpected happened. A package arrived at my door. A yellow envelope, no return address. Inside, printed screenshots from a group chat called Emma and Her Bridesmaids. Emma had typed, "We'll get James to cover the cake too, just guilt him about being the only brother. It always works." One bridesmaid replied, "Ethan can't even stand him, lol." Another added, "He creeps him out." And finally, "He's not going to the wedding, I'll make sure of it, watch." On top of the pile was a sticky note. Just 6 words. "You deserve better, Grace." Grace. I didn't know her name yet. But she would change everything. Because Grace didn't just send screenshots. Grace had audio recordings, real voices, real proof. Proof that this wasn't just family tension. It was manipulation, scheming, cruelty dressed up as tradition. And finally, I wasn't the only one who could see it. There are moments when clarity hits like a thunderclap, sharp, sudden, and impossible to ignore. For me, that moment came after listening to Grace's recordings. Her voice had been steady. The evidence was undeniable. The betrayal? Well, that had already burned itself into my bones. But now I had proof. The rehearsal dinner was held at a vineyard that tried hard to pretend it wasn't overpriced and pretentious. They called it rustic luxury. To me it looked like a Pinterest board someone forgot to update. Twinkly lights, wine barrels, and forced charm. But I didn't come for the scenery. I came to the end of the show. I arrived dressed sharp, suit crisp, tie neat, sharper than any of them had ever seen me. If they were going to remember this night, I wanted the image of me, not their scapegoat, not their passive-aggressive helper, but the man who reclaimed his dignity, burned into their minds forever. They didn't expect me to show. I walked in as Susan was giving her toast, clutching a glass of champagne and pretending tears were sentiment instead of guilt. Emma laughed beside Ethan, all glammed up like the queen of a kingdom built on favors and half-truths. Robert looked like he'd swallowed vinegar, and Susan, she wouldn't even meet my eyes. To them I was just a shadow, the brother who made things easier. Until I didn't. I walked to the front of the room, calm, controlled. "Sorry to cut in," I said, tapping a wine glass gently with my ring. The sound echoed across the room. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Emma's smile faltered. Someone at the back laughed nervously. From my coat, I pulled a small Bluetooth speaker and a flash drive, set it on the table like it was sacred. "What is this?" Ethan asked, already on edge. I looked him dead in the eye. "The truth. What you deserve to hear." I hit play. Emma's voice burst into the room like a shot, laughter, unmistakably hers. "We'll get James to pay for the cake too, just guilt him about being the only brother. It always works." A gasp. A chair scraped the floor. One bridesmaid looked down, ashamed. Another froze like a deer caught mid-leap. Next voice, another clip. A woman, probably one of Emma's friends. "Ethan doesn't even like him. James says creeps him out." Ethan's face turned ghost white. Emma lunged for the speaker. I blocked her with a single move. "Sit down." Then came the final blow. Emma again. This time, her voice was colder, calculated. "He won't be at the wedding, I'll make sure of it, just watch." I paused the clip, let the silence breathe. Then I turned to the room. "Any questions?" Robert shot to his feet, red-faced and seething. "You think this is appropriate? You think this is the time?" I didn't even raise my voice. "Sit down." And miraculously, he did. I turned to Emma. "I've spent over $18,000, 0 cents on this wedding. I booked your venue, I paid your florist, I built your website. And why? Because I thought maybe, just maybe, this meant something. That we were still family." Emma was trembling. Her mascara streaked like melting paint. "You don't understand," she whispered. "No, Emma, you don't. You never have. You didn't want a brother. You wanted a walking wallet." I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. Proof. Screenshots, bank transfers, receipts. A group chat where Emma literally called me their free wedding planner. I handed it to Ethan. "You still want to marry her?" Ethan stared at the papers, mouth slightly open. Then a new voice rose from the back of the room. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, stepping forward. She wore a lanyard, a confident look, and held up a phone. "I'm Sarah," she said, smiling tightly. "I'm a digital forensics analyst. James asked me to verify these files." She turned to Emma, who looked like she might faint. "This audio is real, no cuts, no edits. It came from a WhatsApp backup tied to your old phone number. I have the metadata and timestamps if anyone needs them." Susan gasped. Robert muttered a curse. Ethan turned to Emma. "You told me James was manipulative, that he threatened you, that he made you feel unsafe." He held up the folder. "But this is the truth, isn't it?" Emma reached for his arm. "Ethan, He pulled back. "Don't." And that was the breaking point? The room erupted. My aunt stood up, shouting. Someone dropped a glass. Emma cried. Susan tried to speak but couldn't. Robert just looked defeated. I stood still, not smug, not bitter, just free. Then I raised my voice, one last time. "I'm not going to the wedding," I said. "That decision was made for me. But now you'll go through with it without my money, without my help, and without me staying quiet." I turned to my parents. "You cut me out the moment I stopped being your puppet. So now, I'm cutting the strings." As I walked out, Ethan's voice followed. "I'm ending this," he said. Emma screamed, a sharp, broken sound that echoed across the vineyard. "You can't do this here," she wailed. "Oh," I replied, not turning back, "but he just did." And then I walked away. No music, no slow motion, just the sound of their carefully curated illusion crashing behind me. I didn't go back. Not to the house, not to the city, not even to my own name, really. After the rehearsal dinner, the shouting, the tears, the truth laid bare, I didn't take the freeway home. I took the back road north, where the pavement curled through forgotten woods and the radio turned to static. I didn't want service. I didn't want signal. I wanted silence. 1 month before that night, before I ever hit play on that little speaker, I had signed a lease for a cabin in a town so small it didn't even show up properly on Google Maps. 600 people, 1 diner, 1 post office, and a gas station where you still had to flip the lever before pumping. It was perfect. No last names, no family trees to stumble over, just wind and pine. I paid 6 months in advance, no forwarding address, no announcement. And then I turned it all off. For 3 days, I didn't speak a word. I sat on a wooden porch with a thermos of black coffee and listened to the birds fight over trees they'd never own. No phone, no messages, no emergencies that somehow always required my savings. My shoulders dropped 2 inches. My breathing slowed. My heart, once clenched like a fist, unfurled in my chest. On the 4th day, I signed up for a night class at the county college. Archival preservation. Old newspapers, Civil War letters, crumbling photos from people long gone and no longer begging. For once, I was surrounded by memories that didn't ask me for anything. I started volunteering at the museum. I labeled photographs, fixed microphone machines, and swept the floors when no one asked. And it was mine. Quietly mine. No one clapped, no one watched, no one used it as leverage. And for the first time in my adult life, that was enough. Then came the emails. They trickled into a backup Gmail I hadn't touched in months. Subject lines like, "Can we talk? You went too far. We're still family." I didn't open them. I didn't need to. I knew what they would say. Then came the blocked calls. Dozens. And just like that, their panic set in. Not because of the files I played, not because of the wedding chaos, but because of my silence, because I hadn't fought, because I hadn't begged. I had just left. And for people like that, absence is the loudest betrayal of all. A few weeks later, a court notice arrived at my old apartment, forwarded by my old landlord. Robert, in all his arrogance, had tried to sell a portion of the family land. He'd forgotten I quietly froze the deed years ago after he tried to leverage it behind my back. His sale fell through. The buyer walked. A fraud investigation was opened not because I exposed him, but because this time, I didn't protect him. And that's what scared them most. They weren't used to losing control. There were no dramatic Facebook rants, no explosive text chains, just stillness. I vanished. No help, no attention, no lifeline. They screamed into a void. And it stayed a void. That's what finally broke them. People like that don't fear consequences. They fear being forgotten. One afternoon, I stood in line at the post office. A young woman behind me was on her phone. I didn't know her, she didn't know me. I heard Emma's fiancé dumped her right before the wedding, she whispered, and her brother vanished with all the money. I smiled into my coat collar. Well, I didn't correct her. I didn't need to. Later that week, I visited the wedding venue, just to see. It was quiet, empty. The fairy lights were gone. A dead bouquet sat flattened on the gravel. A faded for sale sign leaned against the fence post. I sat in my car, rolled the window down, and let the wind fill the silence. Before I drove off, I walked to the mailbox by the gate and dropped in a small envelope. No return address. Inside was a copy of the final wedding invoice, the one I paid before everything unraveled. On top, a post-it note. Yellow. Plain. It read, "Thanks for nothing. I don't check that email anymore, but sometimes out of curiosity I log in. One unread message. Please just talk to us." I didn't open it. Another, "We don't know who you are anymore." That one made me smile. Because finally, they were right. I'm not the James who sent money at 3 a.m., who paid for dresses and photographers and caterers. I'm not the emergency contact or the quiet punching bag or the fixer of broken plans. I'm not the silence they filled with guilt. I'm the silence they can't reach. Last week I installed a new mailbox outside my cabin. Steel. Reinforced. Locked tight. The installer asked what name I wanted engraved. I said none. Instead, I gave him a message. Now beneath the lock, in brass letters, it reads, "This box does not accept apologies." And every day since, the quiet I live in says more than words ever could. If this story spoke to you, if you've ever felt overlooked, used, or like the only way to find peace was to finally walk away, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to cut ties to reclaim your own life? Or did someone in your life mistake your silence for weakness? If you felt something while watching this, If this reminded you of your own quiet strength, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more true stories that hit close to the heart. And hey, if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone struggling to put themselves first, share this video with them. Sometimes the loudest healing comes from knowing we're not alone. Thank you for watching, for feeling this with me, and for being here. See you in the next story.